Obviously, the Biden administration is feeling some pressure now in the face of more and more people seeing the obvious truth that what's happening in Israel and Palestine is a genocide against the people of Gaza. And so Kamala Harris came out with a statement, I think this was yesterday or the day before, I'm pretty sure it was yesterday, about what the administration plans to do in the face of this. Let's see what she has to say. I won't give away exactly what this is because she has a kind of a long-winded way of setting this up. But let's see if we can sort of figure out where she's going with this.
Our nation was founded on the fundamental principle that all people should have the freedom to live, to worship, and to be without fear of violence or persecution. Every person has the right to live safe from violence, hate, and bigotry. And for those reasons and so many more, President Joe Biden and I have a duty.
Oh, I thought she was going to say, for that reasons and so many more, we're suspending aid to Israel. But no, not yet. Not yet. Let's see if she gets there.
All she's thinking right now is, this is how humans behave. Put emotion in voice.
Yeah.
Read as human. Do not reveal your cold reptilian nature.
Right. Yeah. I mean, she built me up there. Let's see.
Of our nation safe, but to condemn unequivocally and
the bombing of refugee camps.
All forms of hate.
No, damn it.
Since we took office, President Biden and I have fought to uphold that duty. Over the past decade, America has seen a rise in attacks on houses of worship. So in response, we expanded funding to protect houses of worship from violence. After a surge in hate during the pandemic, in particular anti-Asian hate, President Biden signed the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act to improve the reporting of hate crimes and to ensure hate crimes are investigated quickly and thoroughly. Earlier this year, in response to an historic rise in anti-Semitic attacks, we also released the first national strategy to counter anti-Semitism.
All right.
And to make clear, taking on hate is a national priority.
National priority, or is it an international priority? Is it a global priority? Because what seems to be happening in Gaza, I mean, it seems pretty hateful. I mean, they're bombing mosques over there in Gaza. So what? We protect houses of worship here, but we enable the shelling of houses of worship in Gaza. Do I have that right, or is this going to get better? Let's see. Does this get any better?
We have seen the poll numbers, and we've heard you.
Yeah, we've read the polls, and we've heard you. We're here to temporarily address your concerns with rhetorical reaching out.
Held the first White House summit to address hate-fueled violence, and we brought together religious leaders, community leaders, and survivors to continue our work to keep all Americans safe. And today, we take another important step forward in our fight against hate.
As we allow our donors and large corporations to continue to rob the treasury and strip mine the nation, leading to internecine fighting between groups like rats on a sinking ship, we are going to deflect the conversation towards that internecine fighting and away from the cause of it.
Yeah, and we will, most importantly, continue to fund Israel, I guess, unless, I mean, I don't know, she's got a couple of minutes left here.
In our fight against hate.
Okay.
For years, Muslims in America and those perceived to be Muslim have endured a disproportionate number of hate-fueled attacks. As a result of the Hamas terrorist attack in Israel and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, we have seen an uptick in anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab, anti-Semitic, and Islamophobic incidents across America.
We're seeing an uptick in anti-Arab incidents in Gaza. I think that's what I'm more worried about. Not to say we shouldn't be worried about hate crimes here at home, but what about this giant hate crime that's happening right now, which you guys are supporting full-throatedly?
Uniquely against the international community.
Exactly. 120 to 14 was the UN vote calling for a truce. We were one of...
And one of the 14 was actually a section of Vermont that Ben & Jerry's has jurisdiction over.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Including the brutal attack of a Palestinian-American woman who was Muslim and the killing of her 6-year-old son. A senseless act of violence that that the Department of Justice is investigating as a hate crime.
So you're investigating as a hate crime the murder of a Palestinian-American woman and her 6-year-old son here in the United States, which, of course, everybody would agree we should investigate that as a hate crime. Over 3,000 children in Gaza have been murdered in the past few weeks. 400 children are either killed or injured every single day in Gaza right now. Along with thousands of women. Most of the casualties have been either women or children.
I think we probably read the same thing. It's like 70% are women and children.
70% are either women or children. And you're coming on here talking about the need to address hate here at home. This exposes, not that Kamala was ever a progressive, but this exposes the hypocrisy of progressives more broadly who have no ear or eye for foreign policy, right? We're talking about countering Islamophobia here at home. Look what you're doing around the world. And the right-wingers are giving her shit for this. They're like, oh, the biggest attack since the Holocaust on Jews just happened, and here all you can focus on is Islamophobia. Right. Meanwhile, on the left, we're saying, how could you, with a straight face, talk about countering Islamophobia here at home when Palestinian Muslims are being murdered en masse by a government that we have pledged our unequivocal support to?
Well, what I want to know is, just a couple days ago, Joe Biden announced his task force, which essentially defined pro-Palestine protesting on college campuses as anti-Semitism by definition. Right, there's no rash of anti-Semitism on college campuses. There's a few assholes like the guy in Cornell, which you're gonna get, but they're using that as a pretext to define these protests as explosions of anti-Semitism on college campuses. And now she's announcing this task force to protect Muslims against Islamophobia. So what happens? These two task forces fight it out on the college campuses? It seems that there are cross purposes here.
Yeah, no, what they clearly want is for everyone to stop paying attention to what they're doing, get along and be nice, and let us do what we want. That's what they're saying. Nobody think too much about anything.
Stop agitating.
For so many people in our nation, the past few days and weeks have brought about all too familiar fears. Fears that they will be targeted, profiled, or attacked simply because of who they are, how they worship, or how they look. And so today, I am proud to announce the Biden-Harris administration will develop our nation's first national strategy to counter Islamophobia.
See, look, we've been talking a lot about the hypocrisy of creating an Islamophobia task force as you are funding the genocide of Muslims. But then the other thing that is just so disgusting about this is, as Russell said earlier, they've read the polls and they are responding. They come out with this the day after a poll comes out that says only 17% of Arabs plan to vote for Joe Biden in 2024. This is their response. But notice their response is not to moderate on Israel. Their response is, we're going to look out for the Arabs and Muslims here. 83% of Arabs haven't jumped ship because Biden has neglected them here at home. They're upset that we're funding a genocide overseas. And unless you address that, you're not winning any of them back with this transparent line of absolute bullshit. Caitlin Johnston had a tweet out, and she wrote an article saying basically the same thing, that this is really the most Democrat thing ever, to create an anti-Islamophobia task force while funding the genocide of the Palestinian people.
Well, and this is why they've responded to the Trump phenomena and Donald Trump winning the election by arguing everything except we need to improve economic conditions. These people are dumb. They're uneducated. We need to educate people more. We need to improve the school systems. Clearly people are stupid or they wouldn't vote against us, right? If they were better educated. Because look, people who have been to college support us. That has nothing to do with the fact that they're in a different class position. That's because they're smarter.
They're smarter. They're enlightened. Exactly. They're not so deplorable, right?
Right. If we make the deplorables understand that we rule by divine right of our merit, then they'll settle down and they'll vote for us.
Exactly. All right, let's let her finish.
Strategy will be a comprehensive and detailed plan to protect Muslims and those perceived to be Muslim from hate, bigotry, and violence, and to address the concern that some government policies may discriminate against Muslims. For example, the so-called Muslim ban, which President Biden revoked on our first day in office.
Unbelievable.
So here's the bottom line. In America...
Right, that's why they're upset. That's why 83% of Arabs turned against Joe Biden, is because of Trump's Muslim ban. That's it. What is that, a reminder? Hey, I know you're pissed off at us, but just as a reminder,
it
Trump
could be
passed
worse.
the Muslim ban. Right, could be worse.
No one should be made to fight hate alone. And in this moment, then, let us all clearly say, a harm against any one of us is a harm against all of us.
Beautiful job. Wow.
I'm moved.
Wow.
And hey, they brought out the big guns. They got their resident psychopath to go deliver that message.
Yeah.
For anyone who's new to the show, I have long held the belief that Kamala Harris's weird, creepy tics or inappropriate laughter reflect the fact that she's an undiagnosed sociopath, or maybe diagnosed. I mean, psychiatrists are not allowed to reveal that information. When I watch her, I see someone who doesn't understand human emotion trying to fake it, which is kind of the definition of a sociopath.
Yeah. I mean, that is just psychopathic. It really is. And, this is, I think the whole Democratic House of Cards is really crumbling under this issue, because who watches that and takes that at all seriously? Obviously, they get shit from the right about it, but, they get shit from the actual left about it, or anyone whose eyes are open, really. I mean, you don't even have to be particularly left-wing. We're going to end the show with a clip of Joy Reid talking about this. Like, this is now in the realm of common sense. This is now just anybody who has a modicum of common sense and a modicum of intellectual honesty, which I never thought Joy Reid did have, so I was surprised that she actually said what she said on the air. But if you have a trace of that in you, it's so obvious what's going on. How do you watch a 3.5-minute video about countering Islamophobia here at home and not recognize the just blatant hypocrisy of fighting hate here at home when Israel is committing the largest scale hate crime of the modern era right now, with our support, and almost, as Russell said, almost exclusively our support. Very few other countries are on board with this.
It is the kind of thing you always see at the end of a regime that's lost its moral authority. It's the absurdity of a royal coronation on the eve of a revolution. That's what it feels like. They're going through all the same rituals that they got away with before, and they cannot figure out for the life of them what to do now that the inherent cognitive dissonance in the contradictions of their ideology are becoming too obvious, even for many of their own supporters, like Joy Reid, like George fucking Takei tweeted out that it is not anti-Semitic to criticize Benjamin Netanyahu. Mild criticism, I'll grant you, but that's like a fucking manifesto coming from Dark Sulu over there.
Right.
So, like, when you have George Takei saying boo against an establishment narrative, you've really lost pretty much everybody. And that's been one of the most remarkable things from the beginning of this. The biggest shit libs I know have been on the other side of this issue, with a few exceptions. But I was talking the other night, actually, with friend of show Jimmy Dore about this. When I see some of the Zionists I know post their "I stand with Israel," even the libs will comment, and of course they're very tenacious and very careful about it, but basically they'll be like, listen, I understand, I can't even imagine what you're going through right now, but bombing women and children, do you feel that's bad? I'm not trying to offend you, I don't want to, but you know, do you support that? You know, like they just, I mean, nobody can get behind this. Nobody.
No, of course, it's impossible.
Please clap.